It's time to blow it up, folks. That's where I'm at after the Heat got dismantled in the second half against the New York Knicks last night. And I know it's only 4 games, and I know some people are going to go in the comment section and say that I'm overreacting, but I don't think I am because we've seen enough of a sample size of what this Heat team just does over in the last 2.5 years, and we'll go through it on today's show. But you let me know. I'm at the point where I'm ready to blow up the roster and reset. Are you fed up? What do you believe? Should the Heat blow up the roster? Type Y for yes or type N for no. I will say this, and I do want to clarify, what is blowing it up? What does that look like if you are the Miami Heat in terms of resetting and changing this roster? Well, in truth, blowing it up usually means you're just getting rid of all of your core pieces. Well, for Miami, it's mainly just one. The truth is that Jimmy Butler is the only one that if you get rid of him, is the one part where you blow up. Sure, you can argue Terry Rozier, Duncan Robinson as some of those older veterans who are on contracts that are going to be expiring over the next 2 or 3 seasons. But like when I'm talking about who you go forward with, at least at this point in the season and in this organization, it's probably going to be Jaquez, Herro, Bam, and Jovic and Kalel Ware as your 5 going forward. And the reason why I am at to this point is because we have just seen the same thing over and over and over again with a Jimmy Butler-led Heat team. The Heat are 2-2, and I know people are going to say I'm overreacting, but look at these first 4 games. Do you sense a common theme here, guys? Like, seriously, the Heat are 2-2. They beat 2 bad teams that are projected to be in the top 7, top 10 of the NBA draft this year, and in the bottom 5 of the Eastern Conference, they beat both of those teams by 8. But then at home, they lose to the Magic by 19, a good team. They lose to the Knicks by 9 at home after you led by 13 at one point in the third quarter, and you got outscored once again by double figures in that third quarter. The Heat have a positive net score in quarters 1, 2, and 4. They are minus 41 in the third quarter. That needs to change. You can say it's just the third quarter issues, and if they cut back on that, they're a good team. Maybe you are right. But I have come to the realization, and I have said this time after time after time, that you will never be a good basketball team when your best player no-shows in the regular season against good teams. And when you look at what Jimmy Butler has done against the Magic, against the Knicks, it has been horrible. But look at what he did against the Pistons and Hornets, scoring about 20 points in each of those games, being locked in, efficient, dominating with the second unit in the second and third quarters. Why is he not doing that against good teams? What is it? Because against New York, you can look at the box score and say, how are you going to call him out? He had 15 points, 4 boards, 4 assists while shooting 69 from the field. Well, that's the issue. The fact that against New York and Orlando, he did not take more than 10 shot attempts is a joke. It's embarrassing. You look around the league, the best players in the NBA, the best players on each respective teams, is getting close to 20 shot attempts a game when they are needed and they are called upon to lead their offense. Jimmy Butler is not even putting up 10 shots a night. He is not engaged against good teams. I don't know what it is. I don't know if I know we've talked about him coasting and not taking the regular season serious. Well, I'm done with that. Because I'm sick and tired of the Heat being in the play-in over the last 2 seasons. And right now, I'm willing to bet, I know it's 4 games, that they're going to be a play-in team again this year. I tried to convince myself that they were going to be different this year with a third-year Jovic, a second-year Jaime, Bam with a 3-point shot, second-year Rozier, Herro taking a different role, which he's been your best player, by the way, through the first 4 games, and then contract year Jimmy. Well, contract year Jimmy is the same Butler that you've gotten over the last 2 regular seasons. And I'm sick and tired of trying to look back on what he's done in the postseason. We all know how good he is in the postseason when it matters. But you can't have this be sustainable. You cannot just trust that you're going to be able to flip a switch in the postseason every time. Because that's how you play Boston in the first round. And that's all it takes is one injury to your team and your rotation, and it's too much to overcome like it was last year and you lose in 5 games. We're going to continue the conversation here, but make sure you are subscribed to the channel because we will talk about the Miami Heat every day, no matter what, whether positive things, trade news, rumors, this, whatever you want. we're here. We're still going to be live for games as well. We'll be live next Monday against the Kings. Hit that sub button on the road to 15K. And I know people are going to say it's 4 games. It's the third time I mentioned that today. But it's too obvious, and it's too much of something that we have to look at. And there's too much history here over the past couple of seasons. Look at what the Heat did last year. Now, the Heat's record on paper is probably fine. They won 46 games last year. Or was it 48? I don't remember. Either way. But, I could do the math. 46. I was right the first time. But look at the numbers. Against teams that were above 500. 8 games under 500. That's terrible. That is what a team that is drafting in the top 10 of the NBA draft does. The only reason why you were in an advantageous spot and had a good record at the end of the year is because you dominated teams below 500. But the issue is this. If you did this, but went 24-24, 25-25 against teams against 500, well, then that's where we get 50 wins, and it's fine. But you're 8 games under 500, and you were a merchant against under 500 teams. And then in 22-23, when they made the run to the NBA Finals, they were 500 against 500 teams and above. I could live with this number. I could. But I just am going to go out here and say that 2 years of sample size of not being a good team against other good teams should tell you enough about this Heat core. It's year 6, guys. And when I mean year 6, I'm talking Duncan, Tyler, Jimmy, and Bam. Those 4 players have been on the roster since 2019. And every single one of them has seen this team go through the trials and tribulations over the last 6 years. And the fact that we're in year 6, Butler still isn't engaged in the regular season, and you're not being able to beat good teams at home and still struggling in the third quarter and not meshing well together. And we could talk about the starting lineup because that group has not been good through 4 games like the preseason, like we thought they were going to be. 2 years of sample size, this team, we know what they are at this point. They beat bad teams. They can't beat good teams. And they're stuck in purgatory as a play-in team as a 7 or 8 seed every single year. We're going to have a solution here in just a second, but we are sponsored by DraftKings, my favorite sportsbook and casino, and the only sportsbook that I use here at the Heat Report.
The NBA is finally back. A new season means new ways to get into the action at DraftKings Sportsbook, an official sports betting partner of the NBA. Who's draining threes from beyond the arc? Who's crashing the boards and grabbing rebounds? Get behind your favorite players and the prop bets you can make on DraftKings, the home of NBA player props. First time, new DraftKings customers bet $5, get $200 and bonus bets instantly. Every point counts with DraftKings Sportsbook. Download the DraftKings Sportsbook app and use code HEATCHAT. That's code HEATCHAT for new customers. Get $200 in bonus bets when you bet just $5. Only on DraftKings. The crown is yours. Gambling problem? Call 1-800-GAMBLER. In New York, call 877-8-HOPE-NY or text HOPE-NY 467-369. In Connecticut, help is available for problem gambling. Call 888-789-7777 or visit ccpg.org. Please play responsibly. On behalf of Boot Hill Casino and Resort in Kansas, 21 plus age and eligibility varies by jurisdiction. Void in New Hampshire, Oregon, and Ontario. Bonus bets expire 168 hours after issuance. For additional terms and responsible gambling resources, see dkng.co/bball.
You can play any way you want. They are the king of NBA player props for the season here. I'm going 3 straight bets for today. These are my plays for Thursday night hoops here if you're watching on Thursday. Bucks minus 6.5 against the Grizzlies. Grizzlies on a back-to-back. I'll take Jazz money line as well, and then I'll also take the Suns minus 4 as they take on the Clippers. They're also playing on a back-to-back. These are my 3 plays. Make sure you download DraftKings. Use code HEATCHAT when creating an account to get $200 in bonus bets when you place a $5 bet. DraftKings, home of NBA player props and the best sportsbook out there. All right, I'm ready. I am. The Heat won't be a good regular season team with Jimmy. It's time to reset. It sucks that I have got to this point because if you followed the channel and are a subscribed and loyal viewer, you would know in the offseason that I actually implored for the Heat to extend Jimmy when he asked for the 2-year extension. And I am here to admit, like Happy Gilmore to Chubbs, I was stupid. You were right. I'm ugly. You're handsome. I was wrong. I was wrong. Thank goodness the Heat did not extend Jimmy Butler. I mean, really. because I could not fathom 2 more years of this. And I hope that Pat Riley stands on business and does what he said he would do if Jimmy Butler does not show up in the regular season again when he was talking at his State of the Union press conference at the end of the last year. And I hope he doesn't give him that extension or borderline trades him at the deadline. Because the report out there is that the Houston Rockets are interested in Jimmy Butler. And there are a lot of teams out there that entice me if you're trading Jimmy. None more than the Houston Rockets due to the amount of draft picks they have and amount of young talent they have as well. And I am to the point where if a team offered you a first round pick, just one, and a young player at the trade deadline, I would accept. I would. Now, maybe you get more because multiple teams want Jimmy and the bidding war begins and you get more. That'd be great. But if the Rockets came in and offered one of their 9 tradable first-round picks and one of their young players, whether it's Amen Thompson, Jabari Smith, it's not going to be Jalen Green because of the extension or Alfred Şengün, but Cam Whitmore may be a potential guy. Probably not going to be Reed Shepherd. Probably would be Jabari Smith out of anyone if they were to trade a young guy on their team. But if they offered Jabari Smith and a first-round pick, I think I would seriously accept that. I would, because you need draft capital to help rebuild this team and retool this squad, and you never know who becomes available, whether it's a De'Aaron Fox, it's an Anthony Edwards. And the more draft picks you have at your disposal to trade in the future, the better you are off to potentially reset your team quicker rather than later. And if you get a first-round pick offered to you and a young player, I think I'm absolutely accepting that deal. But be Pat Riley for me. Would you trade Jimmy Butler at the trade deadline? Type T for trade, type key for keep. Well, I'll tell you one thing, folks. I'm certainly not extending him at the moment, at this point. It's not going to happen. He is likely going to opt out of his player option and go into free agency. Now, not a lot of teams can offer him a flat-out 2-year Supermax extension that he wants. So if Miami did get rid of him and he left in free agency, it would likely have to be via sign and trade, which would benefit Miami in a way because you would get something in return, whether it's a pick, whether it's a player or so. It would help you at least mitigate the loss if you do not trade him at the trade deadline. But that's almost why I'd rather trade him at the deadline, is because if you had to do a sign and trade in the offseason based off your cap situation, it might limit you in other moves you can make in free agency and at the trade market in the offseason yourself. So if you have the opportunity to trade Jimmy Butler at the deadline and you are sitting in that 7-8 seed spot again, like I expect them to be after watching the first 4 games of the year, then that's what I would probably do. 2 years, $113 million. That's what he can potentially get in free agency. It'd be 55 this year or next year, 58 the year after. I'm certainly not doing that. Jimmy, I want you to retire a Miami Heat basketball player, but with what I have seen from you, it is time for the Heat to move on, and I need cutthroat Pat Riley back at the end of his career because I don't want to give Butler a massive contract just because he did well in the first 4 seasons he was with the Miami Heat. All right, that'll do it for today's show. Make sure you are subscribed because we're putting out content on a daily basis as well as going live for almost every Heat basketball game. Can't do weekends during the football season, but we'll be live next Monday against the Kings, next Wednesday against the Suns, and the following Friday against the Denver Nuggets. So we're going to be live 3 of the next 4 games for the Miami Heat, just not this Saturday against the Wizards as they're in Mexico City. I'm sure they'll win and look good against the Wizards because that's a projected bad team, and they'll be 3-2, and everyone will be singing Kumbaya. That's it for me. Peace out, folks.